when Golden State won the NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics last week, in your mind, you think that they proved everybody wrong by going out there and getting the dub once again?
I mean, that's an understatement because I'm pretty sure everybody said after last year's exit in the play-in tournament, despite Klay Thompson being out for that entire year, people kind of wrote them off. They said Draymond's getting older. They wrote Steph off, especially the season after he had broke his hand, which was the year prior to that. And I'm pretty sure everybody's well aware of the Kendrick Perkins and Bomani Jones or whoever it was. Oh, not Bomani Jones. Of course, I'm going to forget that shorter analyst's name. But they kind of gave the donuts as to how many championships that Golden State would have within the next 4 to 5 years, and everybody pretty much said that their window was closed. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was one of those people because I said they weren't healthy. Steph broke his hand. Clay's been out. Draymond has been injured. Everybody knows that when the team is healthy, they perform exponentially. Now, whether or not I thought they would go to the finals and win in their first shot, probably not. But I mean, shout out to my boy Mike Casada, huge Warriors fan, had him on the show a couple weeks ago, and I know that he's absolutely astounded, and I know that he's absolutely happy. So I mean, Golden State went out there, did what they needed to do. Steph finally captures the Finals MVP, and Steve Kerr looks like one of the greatest coaches in NBA history. He's got 9 total championships between being a player and a head coach. Golden State's won 4 out of the last 8, and if you don't include injuries, 4 out of the last 6, which is just absolutely insane. And dude, it's absolutely kind of crazy. You kind of sit back and you look, just like I said, just a few years ago, you say, damn, they've kind of had some bad luck. They've had a couple bad turnarounds with some injuries, and then you see what happens when they were reloaded. 8 of their 15 players were drafted within Golden State. Steph, Klay, Draymond, Moody, Poole, Kuminga, Looney, and of course, I'm going to forget the
Probably
one that I'm just.
Toscano, Anderson,
No, he wasn't drafted by the Warriors.
whatever. Don't matter.
It does. The point of the matter is the fact that 8 of them, which is pretty much their 8-man rotation for the most part, they're the ones that went out there and dominated. They're the ones that went out there and did what they needed to do on a consistent basis. I mean, minus Kuminga and Moody not getting too many minutes because they were the rookies on the team. Those 6 players were out there capitalizing and doing what they needed to do, which goes to show that the championships that Golden State has gotten, even though Kevin Durant was on 2 of those teams, the majority of their teams were drafted. They were built, not bought. So kudos to Golden State reclaiming the shot on the throne, on their spot on the throne. And truthfully, I could not be happier for Steph Curry. The emotion that he showed after that Game 6 win was authentic, and it was absolutely incredible. I could not be happier for him.
I mean, Kevin, I'm pretty much with you on this one the entire way. I was of the mindset that Golden State wasn't to be able to get back to this point. And I don't think it was because of the skill set that Steph has, Clay has, that Draymond has. It had nothing to do with that. It was just the last couple years, Golden State was just riddled by injury. And typically, when you see a team where they're essentially their main core gets into, I would say, their early 30s, and some of them are even approaching their mid 30s, this is when you start maybe seeing like a slip in production. And even though that a team may be viable to get far into the playoffs, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be in the finals once again. And that's the way that I thought that Golden State was going to kind of ride out the last couple of years. And they proved me wrong, and they proved everybody else wrong by winning the finals against the Celtics. So, I mean, first of all, I got to give a lot of respect, and I got to give a lot of congrats to the entire Warriors roster from top to bottom. Golden State is a phenomenal team. And the one thing that they've shown me over the last couple of years is they've shown me that they can adapt based on the personnel that they have on their roster. Because when they won their first championship with Cleveland against Cleveland in 2015, that year was different. It was mostly just Steph, Clay, and Draymond. That was the rotation that they ran, and they were extremely effective. And even when they got Kevin Durant, they were able to integrate him quite effectively and be able to essentially make the finals damn near every year that he was there. Unfortunately, at the last finals appearance that they had with him, he ended up going down with that torn Achilles and pretty much set the Warriors on a tailspin. And then it didn't help when Klay Thompson tore his ACL going up for a dunk when Danny Green accidentally grazed him going on the way up. So even with that said, I still thought that Golden State would be viable after Kevin Durant left. Obviously, when you lose somebody like Kevin Durant, he goes to Brooklyn. There's a huge void to fill, and it's usually going to take one or two players to be able to fill that void. Kevin Durant's one of the best players in NBA history, just for good reason. And I gotta say, Golden State proved that they could do it. Obviously, Steph, Clay, and Draymond, the main core is still there. They're a little bit more weathered, though. They're a little bit more seasoned just based off of the injuries that they've gone through the last couple of years. Um, Draymond's definitely had a dip in his offensive production the last couple of years. So even the core is not necessarily the same compared to what they were a couple of years ago, but they still showed that they could be extremely effective when it matters the most. And now that Golden State has an influx of younger players on their roster, like Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, Gary Payton II, now all these guys, um, basically the older core can now start teaching these younger guys, how to carry themselves to not only get far into the playoffs, but to be a championship caliber team. And so far, they're doing a great job of it. And this fourth championship in 8 years proves it. They went up against one of the best defensive teams in the NBA with the Celtics. Celtics were literally a top 5 team. You could arguably say they were the best defensive rated team in the NBA this season. And I'm never going to forget this. ESPN gave the Warriors a 14% chance to win this series before it took place. And I imagine that Golden State kept the receipts. And not just the receipts from this year, but the receipts from the last couple of years of people doubting them, including me. And they said, we don't care. We're going to go out there and we're going to go win us a championship no matter how we do it. And they did it in flying colors. So, like I said at the top, congrats to Golden State for getting another championship. Steph with finally getting that elusive NBA Finals MVP. Steve Kerr getting his 4th championship as a head coach with Golden State. I mean, this team's going nowhere as far as I'm concerned. There may be some players that may go other places, but as long as Steph, Clay, and Draymond are there, that team is always going to be in contention for an NBA Finals. And I don't really see anything changing in the foreseeable future unless injuries rear its ugly head on that team. So, like I said, just congrats to Golden State for getting it done once again.